Alright, Scotty, this one's for you. Drew and I are taking on a Souls-like with Mortal Shell. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Nate, like you said, we're doing this one for Scott. We're covering Mortal Shell. This is not typically what I play. This is not my genre. The Demon Souls-like whole genre has grown into something now that's pretty magical, and for most part of the time, kind of throws me off a bit. The fact that I go out and face enemies that more or less just demoralize myself and just beat me right down to nothing, and then have to start all over and do it again. As I said, not my forte. But for some reason, Mortal Shell hooked me. Like, I was really surprised at how much I was actually enjoying the punishment, if that makes any sense. Like, it's kind of weird because I don't like these games at all, typically. But for this one, dude, I like the atmosphere, I like the character, and I like the idea of this Mortal Shell. How was your time with the game, Nate?
Oh, man. I have a tough time with these types of games, much like you.
Yeah.
But this game, it really gravitated towards me. The feel from the get-go of the game, it's very dark.
Yep.
And the whole premise of how you obtain armor and weapons in the game, it's not just like you go out and then you die and then you respawn at the checkpoint. There's this concept where you're like this creature, and then you have to find these different corpses or dead bodies of different knights or soldiers.
Yep.
And then you actually consume them and then take on that body. And that's kind of how the RPG system, I guess, sort of takes place. All these different characters, they all have different shells, and they have different variants in stats. So there's only really 3 stats. You're looking at stamina, health, and duration. So one of the first characters I actually found off the get-go had a higher resolve meter, which actually means that you can parry often. And this whole parry thing, it actually brings this sort of cool element where when you parry, you actually have the option to strike back and do like a huge heavy attack healing blow towards yourself. So it's kind of cool. If you have the high resolve, you have all these, you have multiple, like up to 8 different bars filled available for you. So anyways, I thought it was really cool. You're not just looking out for rusty armor, your next set of armor, or upgrading it in that way. It's kind of just like you have to go out and find these different shells, they're called.
I don't pick these games as a regular to play, but for this one, I was able to get into it, and because most times they don't connect with me, and for some reason Mortal Shell really did. I was able to, even though I was getting punished, go out, I would take a path, and then that wouldn't work, so then I take another path, and then, well, that wouldn't work, and then I take another path, but at the same time, I'm learning the game as I go too, right? When to parry, when to use your shell too, because you have this encasement, right? That it almost acts like that counter attack. So it stuns them for a second and lets you react to them, which is so cool. And I thought that everything was so rustic looking, and the environment itself, it had its own kind of world and story to tell behind it. So I thought it was so interesting. I think that's what really kind of kept me going, even though I was getting punished, and that's again not what I like to do at all, because when I like to play a game, I want to see the progression. And this time, though I didn't really get the progression I normally approve of or try to go for, I was able still to get some satisfaction of going out, looking around the area, finding new enemy types, and some of the creatures' designs as well. Like, man, I had this one giant wolf thing that attacked me. He absolutely demolished me. But it was awesome, though, to see the character design and the models that they have implemented into the game. And the fact that the game is only $30 is such a selling feature. If you're not a big Souls-like person, I'd still give this one a chance. It is punishing, obviously. It's that type of game that will put you right back to the start, and I think that's my biggest struggle with the games like this, is that you go right back to the very beginning just to do it all over again. But then you find mushrooms and these other abilities and little things you go out and explore, but everything just has this this rustic art style to it. It was so cool. Nate, dude, I love the game. Like, honestly, I really did love the game. It really got me, man. I was more impressed than I expected to be.
Yeah, man, me too. Like you said, for $30, it's astonishing the package you get. Now, we have to keep in mind there are some, graphical issues at times.
Sure. Yep.
Maybe some audio issues. But, I mean, that's kind of to be expected with not even a half of a normal price game. So, still, that to say, I still think the audio is pretty spot on as far as, like, the sound effects go. Now, there isn't a lot of, there isn't this deep soundtrack that you sometimes get with these games.
Sure.
But there's just this ambience that really kind of plays well with the setting.
Just enough to heal me. Perhaps you too can use it to free yourself from this wretched land before you end up like me.
I'll quickly kind of touch up on the upgrading system. Now, there is one. Each shell that you obtain, there's a variety of different upgrades that you can pick from. Now, they require 2 different types of currencies. You're looking at tar, which is your basic experience. You get them from killing just regular mooks around the game.
Oh.
And then there's also glimpse. Now, these you have to obtain from consuming different things throughout the map. And to kind of give you an idea, like some upgrades would be like 5,000 tar and then like 10 or 20 glimpse. And kind of a nice thing to keep in mind is when you die in this game, you lose all your tar, so all your experience goes away, but you keep all your glimpse. So you kind of want to make sure that you always are on top of your consumables, using those things so that if you do die and you lose all of your items, that it's not as big of a deal because you can just go and hopefully get back your experience and only lose it on maybe that if you don't.
Nate, I think honestly my time with Mortal Shell was a bit of a surprise. There were minor glitches, like when you're coming down a hill, sometimes you would feel that you're a little floaty, and then if you look at some of the enemies, they were above the ground. But again, we're talking like a $30 game, right? So yeah, there is a bit of polish that still needs to be acquired here, but it's very, very little. And the hook of finding another shell, and then the battle system, the parry, and then you're hardening your shell as well. It was really cool. For me, Mortal Shell gets a 7.5.
Nice, man. I'm actually a little bit higher than you. I really enjoyed my time with this game. I think the setting really drew me in, and the map design is incredibly well. How everything interconnects. It's a little bit confusing at first, but once you finally kind of wrap your mind around it, it is incredible what these guys have accomplished. I'm going to give this one an 8.5.
Nice. Mortal Shell caught both of us by surprise. Addictive gameplay loop that had us on the edge of our seat, just searching for our next shell. You'll be back for more, if you can handle it.